Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm your host, and today, with it being WWE's WrestleMania weekend, which they started doing two-night events, I don't understand that reason why, other than the fact that they didn't want to do a 7-hour show, which to me makes sense, but at the same time means they should learn how to shorten their show or shorten something about it to even it out. So I guess the two-night event's their best idea. But anyways, I wanted to discuss my point of view in the pro wrestling issues of WWE using the PG era style. Now, the reason why that most have found the WWE wanted the PG era was to try and get a younger audience and a better market reach, while also trying to be politically correct as well. The problem is with this, you lose storytelling ability, and your ratings have been and the ratings for the show have been suffering, as the third hour of Raw has proven over multiple number of weeks, not just in the past month, but over the past year. And this was even admitted by the WWE themselves. Versus other organizations, during the Monday Night Wars, when I was a child, I loved watching Monday Night Raw more than I did WCW, Monday Night Nitro. The reason why is one of the reasons, the storylines were better, but this could be because they were PG-13, which means, one, you got the language, and it let the people and characters feel more real than they were. You had the creation of the Austin 316, The Rock. You had DX, the NWO. Even though they were WCW, it works. Even WCW's icon Sting went through a change. Went from the surfer that everybody enjoyed to becoming the dark image known as the Dark Vengeance hero, the Crow Sting, of which it turns out, according to certain WCW superstars, one of them being Kevin Nash, and during an interview, and a couple of others, and a couple of other superstars, Sting had never seen the Crow before this idea was suggested to him, as him being the anti-NWO and being the dark hero that the people, rather than the baby face that he had been, because they needed to change. They needed to take over the ratings. So the baby face disappears, and Sting instead became this darker image character who for a while did nothing and then acted out, picking his spots. And we learned he was a face, but he wasn't a true face. He wasn't afraid to cross that line into heel territory in order to equal out the justice that the NWO had been given at that time. Then you had the NWO split storyline that led to the Wolfpack where Hogan took on Nash. The Red and Black, aka Wolfpack, versus Black and White, NWO Hollywood. And Sting actually took a side of an NWO in this one, where he took the Wolfpack. Well, where things get interesting is that during this time, the NWO wasn't the only one. Because while you had the NWO and the NWO Wolfpack, You had other versions of this new world order forming, such as the Latino World Order with Eddie Guerrero and certain cruiserweights. You had the NWO Japan with like I forget his. It's Sonny Bono, I think was his name. No, Sonny Ono. Ono. Sorry. And all his little buddies from New Japan Wrestling were forming together. And this is where the WCW actually ruined their chances and started leading to their downfall. Because by having all those crowds join into the NWO or forming their own alliances like that, you can have faction wars, but having the idea of a faction war that's based off of one idea is just going to ruin the suspension of disbelief and throw your fans off and make them angry. And do what happened eventually, where the fans left and started watching WWE for its ratings and giving them the lead. That once WWE took, WCW never got back. They never got back and eventually had to close. Another reason the Monday Night Wars were so famous with WWE back then and WCW, people had shows they preferred and they would defend it. You don't have that nowadays, even though you have AEW, New Japan, and you have AEW, WWE, NXT, and New Japan. You can have however you want to look at it. People aren't as much into defending their shows. They will look at it and be like, oh, it's just a match happening. They won't talk about the characters and how special they are. They won't defend the show like it's defending their honor or defending something they love and are passionate about. It's just something to pass the time now. AEW has actually beaten NXT, WWE's minor show, if you want to look at it like that, in the ratings. I actually looked this up in a couple of places to make sure, and it actually came out. Now, the reason why I think this is personal thought on this, but it could be seen as a reason. They allow violence. Actual violence, not just, oh, hit him with a chair, but don't let there be blood. No. NXT recently, not NXT, sorry. AEW recently did something that hasn't been done since Mick Foley wrestled back in the day at one of their pay-per-views. Exploding barbed wire match between two competitors. This was done way back in the 90s at the earliest. I think it was actually in the late 80s, early 90s when it was done. It was when Mick Foley was known as Cactus Jack. He did this, and it was deemed too dangerous, and they wouldn't do it, and nowhere else would do it. Also, another sign of this, that AEW is winning, NXT is moving from Wednesday to Tuesday nights. The only other reason I could see for that is if maybe they're going to try and make NXT UK, which is the European version of NXT, maybe move it to Wednesday nights to try and equal it out, so that they get all their shows in during the week. Now, if they were going to do that, they could just put NXT UK on in Thursday and called it even. But, and like I said, as I previously mentioned, Raw's third hour has been noted by the WWE themselves to have dropped, which is really sad to know, because I can remember when I was a kid, Raw's third hour, well, I can remember when I was younger, Raw used to be 2 hours. Their second hour was so important, they used to call it the War Zone. Well, then they decided to create a third hour, and that third hour, when I was still young, when I was still a kid, but then as I grew up, was still a big draw. It's only in, I want to say, the last maybe 3 to 4 years that drop has started happening. And this past year being the biggest drop of it. And that's really sad, given how many people were more in-house than out due to the pandemic. And for more information on, that I think could be counted as showing why this happened, why the WWE's currently in trouble, I recommend checking out a video on Pilana Production. By Pilana, it's a video by Pilana Productions on YouTube. I'm not guaranteeing whether the info is completely accurate or partial, or if it's just contextual ideas that were thrown in shoot interview type reasoning. But the video by Pilana Productions, Pilana Productions, is called 10 Legends Who Destroyed Current Wrestlers. The thing is, while this video is titled that, when I watched it, it wasn't them actually destroying certain wrestlers, like saying, oh, Seth Rollins is a horrible wrestler, or something, or Roman Reigns needs to be fired, or The Undertaker buried a certain wrestler. No, this was, in fact, to me, it looked more like it was about how they showed the wrestlers being taken to a different level, and how the old days were better compared to the new one, as the new one was getting in trouble. Sorry. How the new one, again, it's showing how the new one was actually going down in level as compared to the old days when the Monday Night Wars happened, and even when the Ruthless Aggression era happened. So, give me your thoughts on today versus the old days, and I'll see you next time.